Greetings, Lucky Legends. Welcome to the dojo. My name is Lucky, this is Lucky Lad TV. I'm your host of this video, and it's time for our PMC Season 2 draft analysis for the Dallas Manectrics. I am Lucky, I am your coach, and I actually went into this draft with a plan, which I almost never do. And by almost never, I mean this is the first time I've ever gone into a draft with a plan. And my backup plan, and the reason I'm saying that first is because I was actually able to execute my primary plan. My backup plan was Mega Scizor complemented with Heatran. That didn't happen because my primary plan I was able to execute. My actual primary plan was getting Mega Lopunny, but Mega Lopunny got taken like before the draft really even started. So I had to go with a plan that I'm actually really glad I went with. Even though I have Mega Lopunny in the Crimson City Battle League, which I'm really having a lot of fun being a part of, it isn't what I really wanted for this draft because I know a lot of the playstyles of some of the other opponents, and bring Mega Lopunny isn't necessarily the best because a lot of people in the PMC like to draft bulky. And Mega Lopunny has a bit of an issue with bulk because of the fact that, you know, anything with really good physical bulk just walls it. It just does. There's nothing you can do about it. So what I ended up going with for this draft is dual weather. And I know what you're thinking. Why? The reason I went with dual weather is because I actually built this off of the Tyranitar Mega Charizard Y offensive core. It's not really built around dual weather as much as it is built around the fact that those two Pokemon complement each other extremely well in the fact that they deal with each other's checks and counters pretty reliably. And when you add a third Pokemon to the mix that can take on Pokemon like Mega Altaria, which is able to deal with both of those Pokemon pretty well, you have a complete three-part core that is able to take on almost anything in the metagame offensively and defensively, but really more offensively. As you will see as I go through the draft, I really added a defensive backbone afterwards. However, Excadrill was, in my opinion, the most important piece of this puzzle. Because without Excadrill, I don't have a good Rapid Spinner to get rid of the Stealth Rocks that Mega Charizard Y really just can't handle. So, and I also couldn't deal with Mega Altaria, which walls regular Tyranitar and Mega Charizard Y pretty much indefinitely. Because we can't hit it for super effective damage, and with the natural bulk that it has, it can just set up on us and then sweep us. So my first pick was Excadrill. It made it. I was 15 out of 16, but it made it. With this first pick, I grabbed the Tier 1 Shallow Grave Excadrill. My first pick. Excadrill is a great mon. Sandforce I probably won't use very often. However, Mold Breaker and Sand Rush are both abilities that I can see myself using rather often. Sand Rush, of course, better when I have Tyranitar on the team. Mold Breaker, more apt when I don't have Tyranitar on the team. Mold Breaker is also good when I want to deal with Pokemon with Levitate. Things like Rotom. Rotom can very easily wall Excadrill in the sand. Rotom easily walls Sand Rush Excadrill. And I am primarily referring to Rotom Wash. Rotom Cut does a good job at this as well. Rotom Heat does a good job as well because they can hit us back with a super effective attack. The issue with Rotom Heat is that it does fear the super effective Rock Slide that Excadrill can throw out against it, and we will outspeed it in the sand. However, all of those Pokemon are terrified of Mold Breaker Excadrill because it easily destroys them with a super effective Earthquake. And we are naturally faster than Rotom, with 88 speed, Rotom hitting 86. 135 attack. As you can see, it is a physical Pokemon with a lot of power. But the most important aspect of Excadrill to me personally is the ability to rapid spin and take less than 4% of its HP every time it comes in on Stealth Rock, which is really, really big. And if you give this thing an air balloon, it doesn't even take damage from spikes. So a great hazard remover because it truly doesn't care about Stealth Rock. Stealth Rock does such insignificant damage. Now there are two picks, a wheel pick, in between my pick and my next pick, meaning pick 1 and pick 2 for me. After pick 2, there are 28 picks before mine. So I'm basically picking in pairs. So Tyranitar was very high on my list. There was another Pokemon that was also very high on my list that I was very worried about getting sniped. However, after weighing my potential choices, I felt that it was more important that my next pick be Tyranitar. So we grabbed our boy Indominus. Indominus, the Tyranitar, as you can see, it has phenomenal bulk, especially in the sand. Its special defense effectively goes up to 150 as a base special defense because it does increase by 1.5 times its natural amount. I was thrilled that I was able to get Excadrill and Tyranitar because even if Mega Charizard Y were to get taken, I wouldn't be as worried because I would still have this very dangerous Sand Core available to us. And let's say Mega Charizard Y does get taken. If that was the case, I would start building a team with Rain. I would grab something like Politoed. Then I would grab something like Kingdra or Beartic or Kabutops, Ludicolo, something that really benefits from the rain. Or I would grab like Tornadus, something that doesn't need the rain, but does benefit from it because you don't have to worry about missing hurricanes, something like that. I really want to dual weather, and if all that stuff got taken, then I would start focusing on building an even stronger sand team, grabbing things like Stoutland that take advantage of the sand, grabbing another rock type that could take advantage of the Spit Death boost, probably something like Mega Aerodactyl so that it wouldn't easily get taken down by, special attacks in the sand. However, Tyranitar is on the team. That was the important part. It's a good Stealth Rock setter. It has really good bulk to it. If you give it a Chople Berry, it's pretty hard to one-shot it unless the opposing Pokemon is like Specs or Bandit or something like that. Fighting type is a huge weakness for it, obviously, being 4 times weak to it. However, like I said, it has phenomenal natural bulk with 100, 110, and 100 HP defense and special defense, respectively. Its speed is something to be desired. However, speed is not really what people use Tyranitar for. Running something like a Rock Polish Tyranitar, I could see myself doing. I believe it gets Rock Polish. I know it gets Dragon Dance, which could be even scarier. I believe that Mega Tyranitar is better suited for the setup type of sets. However, it was more important that I get Mega Charizard Y than I get Mega Tyranitar. I think Mega Tyranitar, I don't think it's that much better than regular Tyranitar because with regular Tyranitar, you have the option to run stuff like Chople Berry, like Leftovers, like an Assault Vest if you feel like it. There's a lot more options for regular Tyranitar. Now, I had my Sand Core. I still need a Sun or a Rain Core. And I also need something that can set up more hazards. I know what you're thinking. You have 2 Stealth Rock setters. Spikes are super useful when you have weather. Spikes are super duper useful because the biggest threats to weather teams are just really fat, bulky Pokemon that can easily sponge attacks and wear out your weather. Like, make your weather turns run out. So getting something that can wear those Pokemon down is important. So, 28 picks later, it was my turn again, and I grabbed Klefki. In my opinion, Klefki is very underrated in the Draft League format. As you saw in the UCL, or as you are seeing in the UCL, my friend Miguel, aka Mega Mogwai, he grabbed Klefki because he too realizes the power that Klefki has. It has Prankster Thunder Wave, it has Prankster Spikes. It is the only Pokemon with Prankster that also sets up hazards. I'm like 95% certain of that. As I said, it has Thunder Wave. It also has Prankster Magnet Rise. So this thing can pretty handily beat ground types 1v1. With the exception of Pokemon like Hippowdon, which can pretty easily, slack off the damage from Klefki. Pokemon like Donphan and Sandslash that don't really have the right coverage for Klefki, we can beat them 1v1 because they're so physically defensive. We can hit them with something like a Dazzling Gleam, and it can't hit us with a super effective Earthquake because we Magnet Rise on it. Klefki has pretty balanced stats, nothing phenomenal, nothing really jumping out at you, but that Prankster is the really important part. Locksmith is going to be a very important part of this team, providing hazard support as well as potential screens or even an offensive presence. It does get Calm Mind. Prankster Calm Mind could easily be a thing. It also is really good because it beats Mega Sableye. Mega Sableye is the pinnacle of Magic Bounce Pokemon. It's the bulkiest, it has the best recovery. It's so good at preventing hazards. And one of Klefki's biggest things is its ability to set up hazards. However, we can pretty easily beat Sableye 1v1 because we resist one of its stab moves, and we hit it with a super effective stab move in return. So if we run something like Sub-Calm Mind Klefki, we can pretty easily beat Mega Sableye. We really don't have to worry about it that much because it just doesn't have the real power to beat us 1v1. Now, there were two more picks and then my pick again. And I knew that between my fourth and fifth pick, there were 28 more picks. So I had to think really hard whether I valued Mega Charizard Y or a bulky water type more. Now you're probably wondering, how are those two even similar? They're not. However, those two Pokemon, a bulky water type, Season 1 I had Suicune. I've used other bulky water types like Starmie in other leagues. Other good bulky water types like Jellicent are out there. Jellicent actually being one of my favorites because it's also a spin blocker and it has reliable recovery. So I was really stuck between a rock and a hard place. I didn't know which was a bigger priority. I ended up grabbing Mega Charizard Y. Now here's the reasoning behind this. The reason I grabbed Mega Charizard Y is because there were actually a lot of bulky water types that were still available. So I actually wasn't as worried about grabbing a bulky water type over those 28 picks before it was my turn again. What I was more worried about was being able to grab the Mega that I wanted. Now, if you look at Mega Charizard Y, all of its stats funnel into its special attack. It has base 159 special attack. It is one of the highest special attack stats in the entire game. And the reason that it's so deadly is because when you send it out, it sets up the sun. And a Fire Blast in the sun from Mega Charizard Y will incinerate pretty much anything that doesn't resist it. It one-shots offensive Claydol, which has base 120 special defense. It absolutely obliterates anything that doesn't resist fire. And with base 100 speed, we still outspeed a lot of Pokemon that we would typically have to worry about, including most rock types. Very few rock types, if any, I can't think of any off the top of my head, except for Mega Diancie. Very few rock types are able to outspeed Mega Charizard, and we can hit that with a Focus Blast, or we can hit it with a Solar Beam. That's the thing about the Sun, is that it gives us access to Solar Beam, which is a 120 base power grass type move that is able to hit bulky water types, bulky rock types, bulky ground types that could potentially pose a defensive threat against us. Now, as I said, I also really wanted a bulky water type. Suicune was available. The reason I did not go with Suicune is because this other mon was also available, and I grabbed Milotic. Now, why Milotic? Nessie is, I'm not going to say better than Suicune. It's not as bulky as Suicune. However, what Nessie or Milotic has that Suicune does not is access to a reliable recovery move. In this case, Recover. Recover is so much better than Rest. And even though Suicune is, it's a good Calm Mind setup sweeper if you want to, and it's almost impossible to one-shot if you EV it correctly, I really wanted to grab Milotic because it also gives us something that can take on physical setup sweepers and get rid of them with something like Dragon Tail. It gives us reliable recovery. It gives us a really strong Scald. It gives us Dragon Pulse. Milotic is really good against stuff like Mega Charizard X, which typically would kind of just tear through a team like mine because we don't really have a good fire resist except for Tyranitar, which gets mollywopped by a Brick Break. If he wants to run Brick Break, it'll destroy us. Whereas Nessie doesn't even get 2-hit KO'd if we run the correct investment, and we can 2-hit KO it back with Dragon Pulse. So Milotic, I was very happy that I was able to get it. And like I said, 2 picks, then mine again. I wanted to grab my Chlorophyll Pokemon. When it comes to dual weather in the Draft League format, you want speed control. I'm not as worried about stuff like Leaf Guard and Sand Force. I'm not worried about Flower Gift and all that sort of stuff. I was worried about speed control. So I actually grabbed Venusaur. Now, Venusaur and Mega Charizard Y was a very common VGC core back in VGC 2014. Mega Charizard Y, Venusaur, great offensive synergy, great defensive synergy as well. I dropped Venusaur week 1. Actually, before week 1. I replaced Venusaur before the draft was even over, and here's why. I did not realize that Venusaur does not get Weather Ball with Chlorophyll. It gets Weather Ball, I think. It gets Chlorophyll, I know. It can't have both of them at the same time. Which took one of my really big plans and just threw it away. Venusaur has really nice bulk. It has decent offense. It has decent utility with stuff like Sleep Powder, Knockoff, Earthquake, stuff like that. It doesn't get Weather Ball, though, which is a problem because that means that Venusaur gets walled by Steel types. I needed something that could take out Steel types in the event that Mega Charizard Y cannot. If it's a really fast Steel type, I need the Chlorophyll to make sure that I outspeed that thing and then destroy it with a Weather Ball. So I'm not really going to go into Venusaur that much because at the end of this slideshow, I will be going over the transaction that I made in which I replaced Venusaur. Now, if you look at my draft, I have some pretty cool stuff. I have a Fire, Water, Grass core, now that I have picked up Venusaur. And I have a fairy and steel part of a fairy dragon steel core. But I need a dragon. I have 2 dragon-like Pokemon. I have Sauron, our Mega Charizard Y, and I have my Lotic. But I don't have an actual dragon type. So what I ended up doing is getting one of my favorite dragon types. It's not necessarily the best, but it's definitely one of my favorites. I grabbed Druddigon. Now, my boy Ruffles is one of my favorite dragon types. Not just because of his design, not just because of the fact that he's a pure dragon type, which in my opinion is superior to the dragon flying type that you see all the time, because it gets rid of that quad ice weakness. Druddigon has 3 amazing abilities. Mold Breaker, Rough Skin, and Sheer Force are all useful. I will probably use each of them at some point this season. Mold Breaker is good in the same sense that it is for Excadrill. It lets us hit levitating Pokemon with Earthquake. It lets us ignore Sturdy, which is huge, because that means our opponent doesn't get an attack off. Like, let's say it's Probopass versus Druddigon. Earthquake will kill Probopass, even though Probopass has Sturdy. Same thing with, like, Magnezone. Even though it has Sturdy, Mold Breaker ignores that. Rough Skin is really good for deterring Rapid Spin, because you will take 1/8 of your HP every time you Rapid Spin. If I put Rocky Helmet on this thing, you will be taking 1/4 of your HP every time you Rapid Spin, because you are taking 1/8 plus 1/6, which comes out to a little bit over 1/4. So, not good. It deters Rapid Spin. Sheer Force. Life Orb Sheer Force makes all of my attacks with secondary effects almost twice as powerful. It's times 1.3 and 1.33. It's around like 1.9 times as powerful. It's a little bit more than that. It's not quite times 2. It's, I think, 0.196 or 1.96 times as powerful. Almost double. Super duper scary. Life Orb Sheer Force will allow you to tear through Pokemon, especially when you have base 120 attack. Now, Druddigon is slow. I'm not going to say it's not slow. It is slow. It is the slowest Pokemon on our team. Period. It is 13 points slower than Tyranitar, and Tyranitar is already slow as hell. However, Druddigon has a lot of phenomenal utility. It has access to Glare, which lets you paralyze ground types. It has access to Stealth Rock, and it has access to a lot of great coverage. It has the 3 elemental punches. It gets Gunk Shot. It absolutely demolishes Azumarill with Gunk Shot. However, next Pokemon I wanted was a real spin blocker, a ghost type. So, I grabbed Rotom. Rotom, nicknamed Samordinalap, because Samordinalap is a word that means when you spell the word backwards, it makes a new word. And Rotom spelled backwards is motor. That's why when Rotom changes forms, it says Rotom entered the motor and changed forms. I don't know if it says and changed form, but I know it says it entered the motor or something like that. It's a Levitate Pokemon. Normally, I feel the need to get like an actual flying type Pokemon to deal with Mold Breaker Earthquake. However, the best Mold Breaker Earthquake user is on my team. I have Excadrill. I don't have to worry about it. However, week 1 and week 2, Rotom was not useful. And at the end of week 2, I dropped Rotom and picked up a new Pokemon. So I'm not really going to go into the use of Rotom that much. I'll really go into more of why I dropped it when I get to those transactions in just a bit. But the next thing I needed was a fighting type. Now at this point, I had room for one more tier 5 Pokemon, and both of my tier 3 Pokemon. There weren't really any fighting types in tier 3 that I wanted. More importantly, there were other things in tier 3 that I wanted even more. Granted, I could have gotten, let's say, Heracross and Stoutland. Stoutland is tier 5, Heracross is tier 3. I could have grabbed Stoutland to, give me more of a sand presence, and I could have gotten Heracross. It gives me nice bug stab, it gives me fighting stab. The problem with Heracross is that Mega Horn misses, and it's double weak to flying. So, not that my flying type is taking a Brave Bird, because it's frail, but I'd at least like to be able to take Hidden Power flying. I'd like that. So, I actually went and grabbed Primeape. Now, here's the thing about Primeape that's actually really cool. It has Defiant. Defiant raises your physical attack stat by 2 stages when your opponent lowers any of your other stats, including attack, actually. So this thing ignores Intimidate, because when we get Intimidated, we get up to +1 rather than -1. If we are hit by Sticky Webs, we get +2 attack, which is huge. We will be able to deal a lot of damage. Primeape also has a lot of really good utility moves. It has access to stuff like Seed Bomb. It gets the Elemental Punches, I believe. It has U-Turn as well, which is really cool. That's another thing that made me not want to get Heracross, is that Heracross doesn't get U-Turn. Even though it is a bug type, it does not get U-Turn, which really deterred me from grabbing it. And it really made me want Primeape more. The Defiant thing is also really, really big, because we can take on Intimidate users much more easily. Now, the big offensive type that I'm missing right now is Psychic. Psychic is a phenomenal offensive typing. I don't have it on my team right now. I want something that is fast, because right now my team has troubles with Pokemon like Gengar. If you remember from my PMC Season 1 Championship Battle, we get demolished by a Gengar. I think it killed 5 of my Pokemon. And that is because, 1, I didn't plan or prep correctly, and 2, it has 110 base speed, 130 base special attack, and you can run it with a Focus Sash, you can run it with a Life Orb, you can run it with a Choice Scarf, you can run it with whatever you want, and it'll just tear through your opponent, because it has Ghost fighting coverage with Focus Blast, which is really, really, really scary, because your normal types are not safe. You need something with phenomenal special defense, or you need something that is faster that can kill it, which is why I grabbed a Zelf. Now, if you remember really, really early on in Season 1 of the PMC, I actually drafted a Zelf. I had a Zelf on my Season 1 draft. However, I dropped it after, I think, Week 1 for Meloetta, because I wanted something that would help with Ghost Spam. Incidentally, Meloetta got killed by Gengar in the finals, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure it did. A Zelf is faster than Gengar, with 115 base speed. It also outspeeds Pokemon like Latios and Latias, which is definitely going to come in handy. It also has 125 attack and special attack, which means that you can run a physically offensive, specially offensive, or my favorite, as a mixed offensive Pokemon. Mixed offensive Pokemon are extremely deadly in this format, because if you give them the right coverage moves, it is almost impossible to wall them. Furthermore, a Zelf has access to Taunt. It is a very fast Taunt user. It also has U-Turn, as well as Stealth Rock, Thunder Wave, and a shitload of other coverage moves. It is great. It is a great Pokemon. It did not fit my Season 1 draft. It fits this one very well. Green Lantern will stay on this team throughout the entire season, but I have 1 pick left. One little pick left. And I still need a normal type. But I want a bulky normal type. Originally, I was going to grab Porygon Z and just go balls to the wall offense. But I decided to go with its little brother, Porygon 2. Porygon 2 is fat. It's fat. With Eviolite, its defense effectively goes up to 135, and its special defense effectively goes up to 137.5. It has 85 HP. It has access to Recover, Thunder Wave, Tri-Attack, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam. I think it gets Agility, but it doesn't get Baton Pass, so I don't really care. It has one amazing ability, one good ability, and one iffy ability. Trace is amazing. Trace enables Porygon 2 to beat Pokemon like Mega Altaria 1v1. Because if we Trace Pixelate, we can hit it with a super effective Tri-Attack while easily sponging all of its attacks. Analytic is good because Porygon is naturally slow with only base 60 speed. It's not quite as slow as Druddigon, but it's definitely not fast. Analytic means that if you move last, you deal 1.3 times as much damage, or 1.3 repeating. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but it's a good damage boost. It's something that Starmie likes to do a lot in the OU tier. But that was our draft. I was super happy with it until I realized that Venusaur doesn't get Weather Ball. And at this point, I was like, alright, I gotta swap out Venusaur. What am I gonna swap Venusaur out with? So I looked it up. The only Pokemon that gets Weather Ball and Chlorophyll is the Victory Bell. So effective week 1, I dropped Venusaur and I picked up Victory Bell. And I basically explained why right here. It's access to Chlorophyll and Weather Ball at the same time. Victory Bell is a little bit slower. Victory Bell is base 70 speed. Venusaur is base 80. However, ultimately this isn't very important. Because in the sun, Victory Bell still outspeeds base 110 Pokemon with a Choice Scarf. So even if my opponent has Choice Scarf Latios, or Choice Scarf Latios, we will still outspeed it in the sun without running a positive speed nature. We can still run Adamant or Modest or something like that. We will still outspeed it. Because we hit... Or do we need a positive speed nature? Yeah, no, we don't. Because 252 EVs in speed brings us to 122 speed. Double that, and you hit 244. We outspeed pretty much everything at that point. Latios and Latios, their max speed is 178. So, 178 times 1.5, it still doesn't outspeed us. I can't remember exactly what the number is. 267. Sorry, we do need to be a speed boosting nature, but we hit 268. We hit 268 because we have 143, I believe, or 142 rather. 142 times 1.5. What am I? I'm missing something. I don't remember what I'm missing. Not the point. We outspeed the Lotties in the sun. I know that for a fact. We outspeed the Lottie twins in the sun and proceed to absolutely destroy them with moves like Sludge Bomb, Knock Off, if we feel like it. That's the thing about Victory Bell, is that it has a much better offensive presence than Venusaur, because Venusaur, while they do have the same special attack set of 100, Victory Bell has 105 physical attack, whereas Venusaur only has 80, or 82, I think. It's a really big difference when it comes to damage output. Now, as I said, I also dropped Rotom. Rotom was not doing what I wanted it to. It didn't have enough bulk to be a good spin blocker. So I said, you know what? I'm not worried about getting a spin blocker because most rapid spinners Klefki can beat. And I can just wear him down 1v1 while I'm getting up more spikes. So I dropped Rotom and I grabbed Pokemon that may actually surprise you. I grabbed Mothra. I grabbed Venomoth. It's another defogger. It is a Toxic Spike setter. It's a setup sweeper. It has agility and baton pass. It removes Toxic Spikes as well. Granted, we have that with Victory Bell, but, you know, I have seen so many people get demolished by Quiver Dance Venomoth. Because here's the thing. Venomoth has Tinted Lens, which means that not very effective attacks double in power. So, essentially, you don't have not very effective attacks. They're either super effective or they're neutral. Which is such huge damage output. You literally deal twice as much damage on a not very effective attack. That's the same as being at +2, dealing a not very effective attack. Venomoth has base 90 speed as well. It is not slow. It has reliable recovery in the form of Roost, and it has phenomenal setup in the form of Quiver Dance. That is it for my draft. I want to thank you all so very much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. It's very much greatly appreciated. But with that, I'm going to get about best of luck to you out there. I will see you all soon. Goodbye.